Hello, my loves. If you're watching this now, welcome to Shadow Work. This is going to be the first of very many little sessions on this. I told you guys I was going to be getting into classes. This is one of the classes I decided to start with, is shadow work. I do this on a personal level, so if you have a need or want to work one-on-one for shadow work, it is $75 for the first session, and it is an hour session. And it is $50 for every session you decide to have after. It comes with our, basically what we talk about typed out, as well as video time, as well as a reading during that point in time to see where we're going on all that. So just to let you know about that. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is this little thing I've got right here. So as you can see, this is basically our ego, our persona, our shadow. Sorry, I've got a little bit of notes so I didn't get off track. This is everything that we are as a person. So in the very, very middle is going to be our ego. Outward of that is our persona, and that's what we show the objective world. Behind that is our shadow, our personal unconscious, and the subjective world. Basically, this is the bubble of who we are as a self. So when we talk about shadow work and ego and all that, people think, well, isn't ego a bad thing? Well, actually, no. Ego is every part of you that makes a conscious decision. Ego is the I, the me, the self, the part of you that chooses, let's say, I only drink water, I don't drink soda, or I don't drink, alcohol or whatever. That is a choice made out of ego. Now, where did that choice come from? The objective world pushed this idea on you somehow. They created this persona of you either through things that you saw that were negative or things that you saw that were positive. So you either only drink water because of the positive of the water, or you only drink water because of the negative of everything else. Either way, that choice is made out of ego, and it's due to your persona. We sadly live in a world where basically culture is what is our authority. What is the culture around us? And that's the authority between what is right and what is wrong. We don't really go off of our own inner intuition too often. Like I personally, I like barefoot. I like boots and things too, but I like to be barefoot. And so for me, if you were able to walk around barefoot everywhere, that would be epic. But they require shoes and shirt if you want service anywhere, don't they? Because that is a culturally acceptable thing, is that you must wear shoes no matter where you go. When we reach the state of maturity, it's when we reach a state where our inner voice is the authority that we listen to. Now, we might base that off of things that the objective world has put on us, but it's still our own personal choice. For instance, let's see, if we were on the plains of Africa, it's acceptable for women to walk around with their titties hanging out. Here in America, not so much. But if you go to a nudist beach in like Europe or something, again, totally acceptable because the cultural differences. So, is nudity wrong? Not necessarily. It's just the cultural perception of it. Another example would be belching. So here in America, if you belch in front of me while I'm eating, I'm grossed out. I don't want nothing else to eat. I'm just done, right? I am over it. If you go to China, Japan, they belch during the meal to express the gratitude for the deliciousness of the food and all that, and it's almost rude if you don't. So again, cultural acceptance and difference. But that is built off of what the culture projects at us. And our ego says, okay, well, I want to be good, I want to be accepted by everyone else, I want to, feel this positive way, so I'm going to follow the crowd and do this thing the culture says. So your habit might be to belch, but you live in America. So you suppress that part of you, that shadow part of you. You're just like, oh, okay, well, I don't want to be looked down on. I'm just going to, I keep it in. I only belch in private. Okay? That's an example. Let's see. So your ego is the my own, Shaenna's own center of consciousness. That's the me. When I think, what would I do? What do I do? What do I like? I like it to make a point to let people know, I like nature. I clean up trash. I do this and that. Well, what made that? What is that? Something triggered that in me. Something allowed me to be obsessed with cleaning up nature, being in nature, all of this and that. I could have had an adverse effect to nature. I know people who cannot walk through grass. But as a child, my father and mother, they took me to nature all the time. I got to always look at nature. I got to, look at bugs and play with grass and this and that. So my cultural perception of nature is it's something to be viewed as beautiful, it's something to be respected, and it's something to be enjoyed. Okay, just so we're clear. And by the way, if you're like, where do I get my information? If anybody's ever heard of Carl Jung, which if you're into philosophy at all, you totally should know about him, he talks about the shadow. So that's who I get my info from, and I digest it, and I'm just trying to regurgitate it to you the best way I possibly can. So there's that little disclaimer right there. All right, so ego is the eternal I, that this belongs to me. Ego organizes perception from inner and outer worlds. It's the part of us that is aware and consciously able to understand something. So if I'm talking to you right now and you're understanding what I'm saying, that's your ego. That's consciously pulling that together. Now, sometimes your shadow self can make a decision. Your subjective conscious can make a decision, but typically that's not where that stuff comes from. So most of us might wear a mask, okay? All day, every day. And you're thinking, well, I don't. I'm really me. I'm just me all over. I guarantee you do. You're going to be a different person from the time you go to school, to the time you're at work, to the time you're at home, to the time you're with friends, to the time you're around family, and every little bit in between. We all have different masks we wear. Now, some of our masks might be similar to others, but there is a reason for our mask. It's basically our protection for ourselves, for the culture around us. So, say you're in a situation where you're at work and you really don't like your boss, but your boss is giving you some crap and you're sitting there having to take it. You can't tell your boss to FO. What do you have to do? Smile. But I want you to see something. You see how I'm smiling but my eyes are not? My eyes kind of say something else. If you could see what my eyes say, it kind of says F you, right? That's a mask, okay? This is a mask. If you look behind my mask, you can tell what the truth is. You can see the shadow of the truth. You can see the actual, what is really going on here. So whenever somebody smiles or looks at me, I always look at their eyes and I always try to see, are they really smiling? Now let me think of my twin real quick. Pretend he's sitting here. Scrub his little face. Now can you see the difference? I'm actually happy. I'm actually smiling at you. So this is my true self, and my shadow behind my eyes right now is projecting outward, but it's like integrated. I'm allowing my true conscious self and my subconscious self to be the same thing. I'm not putting on a fake mask right now. This is like a real thing. But people have to put this mask on all the time for work, for school, for all kinds of reasons. We're working really hard to fit into a box, basically is what it is. We realize, okay, I should be nice, I should be kind, I should do whatever. And maybe that's not how you're really feeling. So you put the mask on because you're trying to be that person who can fit into that box and basically just be that puzzle piece that fits. Okay, eventually your shadow and your ego are going to battle when you're trying so hard. So if you're somebody who constantly is getting stepped on and you're always trying to be nice and happy, you might not be a violent person ever. Part of you is an extremely violent person. Part of you is revenge seeking. Part of you is got a fierceness to you. And that's okay. But it's part of your job to find a healthy way to let that come forward, okay? Because if we bottle it all up and cage it all up and it has no healthy way to come out, one day it will come out on its own. It's important to realize that your shadow isn't necessarily bad. It could even overjoy your life, and it could even let out the playful parts of yourself. It's the repressed, the suppressed, the what is not acceptable culturally outside of you. The shadow contains repressed qualities felt as negative, face to face with the self-esteem of the ego. Inferior, uncomfortable, not me, the not me portion of the personality, which is developed in opposition to and alongside with the identity put forward in the objective world by the ego and the persona. Everyone carries a shadow. The less embodied in the individual's conscious life the shadow is, the blacker and the denser it will become. If the shadow's repressed tendencies were consciously evil, they would not be a problem whatsoever. But the shadow is primitive, unadapted, unawakened, and somewhat inferior, not wholly bad. It might even embody childlike qualities that might even embellish your living existence. Okay, I need to give you a for instance, okay? I embrace my magical fairy side. The darkness I embrace and let it out at Hobbs Grove. I found a way of letting the terrifying part of me be acceptable. The shadow was a dark, scary, powerful person, someone to be feared. So I am 5'2". I'm very, very small. I've not had a lot of money in my life ever. I've not been in control of my living situation, necessarily all of my schooling. There's a lot of things that have been completely out of my control that have completely drove me up a wall. And so as small and as meek and as humble and as cute as I am, part of me is just like wants to be extremely powerful, wants me to be, you know, the person to kind of be feared and kind of be, you know, everybody, you know, not worships, but everybody respects this person. Everybody, you know, has got something positive to say or get the beep out of my way kind of a thing. And I had so much negative stuff happen to me over and over and over again by different people and people I should have trusted and people who were supposed to be trusted and this and that, that it just layered. It got really, really stacked. And my shadow was actually my positive side. The positive side that you see now was my shadow then. I was always angry. I was always drawing negative things, writing negative things. F you this person, F you that person. I was just being completely unreasonable. I drank a lot. It just wasn't a positive person. So my shadow part of me was that soft, caring person that you see now. Now, the reason why it was my shadow is because I would act like I did not give a flip, okay? I would act like I did not care, like nothing mattered, like no one could hurt me. I am the toughest, most whatever. I'm made of stone, blah, blah, blah. And it was because I was so easily hurt, because I cared so freaking much. And so little by little, I had to integrate the caring part of myself into my life and allow myself to say it's okay. Yeah, there are times you'll get hurt, but it's okay to trust and it's okay to allow that caring side to be a part of you. And I integrated it a little more and a little more until, you know, I started doing donation works to like Project Linus and to Discovery Center and to help save wolves and to do special ed for Madera South, and I'd go and pick up, you know, trash out of nature at the different lakes around here and things like that. And so that was how I started off being nice. And then little by little, I realized how good it felt to care for someone else. And that's why I decided that, you know, it's okay to let that part of me out. As far as my angry side, now that's still a shadow part of me too, and I'm a Pisces, so we're both. I'm as good as I am bad, make no mistake about that, and I will be as bad as I will be good, make no mistake about that. I had to find a way to let this anger out in a positive way. Now, you do not physically touch anybody at Hobbs Grove, but vocally, you can scream your head off, and you could, as long as I'm not cussing at them, you can be outrageous. You can say whatever, you can, I mean, within reason. I'm not talking, I mean, go kill yourself or something. No, I'm just saying, like, when you're in character, I'm a witch or whatever. I'll boil your head. I'm gonna pull out your eyes and make a stew. You know, whatever you gotta go on. I don't know, that was just, even when I'm a fairy, I'd come up and then giggle and run away. Because I got to let that out. I get to let out that dark side and then that fun side too, all at the same time. And you get paid for it. And you're just like, oh, this is great. This is the best thing ever. So that was a way that my shadow could healthily be let out. I have a client who, he is so sweet and so kind. And he's a very strong man and very docile. And I know he's got some anger in there. And his mask, I see right through it all the time. And he'll smile at me and I'm like, why are you so mad? He's like, how did you know I was mad? I was smiling. I'm like, well, I just can kind of tell, you know, that's kind of what I do is, you know, be an empath. He's known me for a couple years now and it's still a surprise to him. But anyways, I suggested to him, try some MMA. He's now living in Vegas and I said, you know what, there's boxing all over there. There's all kinds of things. Get in some MMA, get in some martial arts, go to a gym. Let that aggression out in a positive way, in a positive arena, in a positive little atmosphere. When we allow ourselves to integrate our shadow into our life in a positive way, we become healthier. I heard about a man who was very, very stuck up and very religious, and his family let him have zero fun. But then they said, in secret, he became a clown, and he, I guess, just started performing as a clown in secret. And then one day it got out to his family that he was a clown, and it was okay because that was a reasonable reason to act silly, I guess. So if you have to find a reasonable reason to do the thing that is your shadow, as long as you are not hurting yourself and you're not hurting someone else, like you're not stealing or whatever, you know, you're not shooting up some crazy drug or something, I don't see why not integrating your shadow. Integrating your shadow is the most healthy thing because then you don't have to worry about it coming out and exploding randomly and messing everything up. So, our shadow is frightening and scary, dark to the ego, only because it represents another path and other possibilities. So for me, my family was extremely religious when I grew up. When I was growing up, they were, I mean, my mom, not so much, she was religious, but not like hardcore, but her grandma, who we lived with, was extremely, extremely religious. We're talking like Pentecostals kind of religious, which is fine. But I mean, I got a spanking for dancing. Well, I was trying to pretend to do the hula hoop. I was watching Land Chops play along, and I didn't have a hula hoop, so I was just doing it. Well, I got spanked for basically gyrating my hips like a whore, even though I was just like a little kid trying to do hula hoop that I didn't have. I had no idea that it was... Anyways, so every single thing that kind of happened, you know, in my life when I was little, if anytime I saw a spirit, anytime I got a premonition, anything that was kind of magic, it was all evil. And so I had to stay completely away from it. And people tried to convince me that a lot of the things I saw weren't even real. They're like, Shaenna, fantasy, reality, big brick wall in the middle. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But then you're calling me a liar. And then I'm wondering if I'm crazy. And I mean, it was just a lot for a little kid, because you find out later in life, you're not crazy. You're just an empath. So when I turned 29, right before I turned 29, actually, I decided... I've always had my magical abilities. I've always had my premonitions. I've always had these gifts, but I've tried to hide them. Every now and then I get a loosey-goose moment, and it would just pop out whether I wanted it to or not. And it was always correct, and every time it did that, and I always felt really good about it every time it happened after the fact, except for the fact that what I was doing, you know, could be seen as negative to some super religious people. It was a different path. It was a different path in my entire life. That means embracing stones all of a sudden. That means that the essential oils that I was drawn to, even though they were never given to me. The lady who showed them to me is hardcore Christian, and she didn't show me the essential oils with any magical connotation whatsoever. They just happened to fit into that, is what I'm saying. Your personality can expand to include aspects of your shadow to give it function. Things that you have always wanted but are taboo. So what I'm doing even now, my readings I do, my stonework, my healings for people, that was all taboo. That was all negative. My calling myself a fairy, the makeup I wear, everything. That's all taboo. Okay? It's all taboo. And yet I finally embraced that part of myself, and I've never been happier. So that is basically where I'm going to leave you for this number 1, is that I want you to write down some things that you think are your shadow qualities, okay? What are the things about your life? I like to sleep naked. I like to, you know, maybe I secretly indulge in chocolate milk all the time, or whatever. Write down the things in your life that are taboo. Getting tattoos. Maybe you've always wanted one. I don't know. Just make a list. Your anger issues. God, this one time I visualized squeezing this person's head off, or running them over with my car, or whatever it is. Write them down. Get to know what your shadow part of you is. Don't be afraid. No one's judging you but you. And you got to be easy on yourself, okay? Look at those qualities. Figure out what you have. Figure out what you have to work with. And then look and say, is there any way I can integrate any of this into my life in a healthy manner? Such as, you know, joining a gym if you have aggression. Or maybe if you have a need for speed, becoming a, I don't know, horse racer. Go rent a car and there's speed tracks and stuff like that. I don't know. There's just different things. So find out what your shadow is. If you need help working past that, I do. Like I said, that's part of what I do is my shadow work. And that's one of the things I would ask you to do if we were working together one-on-one anyways. So I'm going to leave you there. Hope you guys like this, and talk to you later. Bye.